Hey folks, welcome everyone to the latest episode of the SaaS Sessions Podcast. Today we have Srikrishnan Ganesan on the show with us. He's a co-founder and CEO of Rocketlane. Rocketlane is a leading customer onboarding platform for those of you who don't know. Earlier this year they raised their Series B and announced it in a super awesome rap video, which they also did for Series A by the way. So definitely, something that you should check out and get inspired from. Prior to Rocketlane, Sri was at Freshworks building FreshChat, and he joined Freshworks while when they acquired his previous startup called Contour, and later it was renamed to Hotline. Right. So, hey Sri, such a pleasure to have you on the show.
Hey Sunil, nice to catch up again, and thanks for having me on.
Awesome. So, see, I know Rocketlane is known for customer onboarding, and it's a very, very interesting category that you're part of, and great feat that you have done with Rocketlane, right? So let's kick off with understanding what is the current state of customer onboarding that you've seen in SaaS, right? You have hundreds of customers, so you've learned a lot since the past couple of years where you're running Rocketlane. And obviously, in the past 2 years, obviously a lot has changed with respect to AI coming on board, right? So maybe you can kickstart us by talking about give us the current state of what customer onboarding looks like for SaaS.
Sure, happy to share my perspective on how onboarding is working in SaaS. I'll also add a little bit of extra color on what we do. I think onboarding is one category we play in. Professional services automation is the other category, and in a way, it's both related. It's just more with mature, less mature versions of the same thing. So, if you think about any onboarding team, implementation team, professional services team, there are two sides to running their business. On one side, think of it as front of house and back of house. Front of house is how you collaboratively execute on a project or initiative with a customer. How do you hold each other accountable? How do you track which things are going on track, what's going off track, put the governance layer around it, etc. So it's actually the delivery experience and how you're actually running projects with customers, getting the work done, and so on. The back of house is the operations around it. Hey, I need to staff the right team on a new project. I need to track my efforts going into a project so that I know I'm not overspending on one customer versus another. Sometimes you're charging for your implementations and you want to make, at least you want to break even on it, if not make a positive margin. Because I think the SaaS world has changed, right? In the last 2 years, it's all about profitability.
Yeah.
And, even if it is a business that is not yet profitable, how much money are you losing on your implementations, etc., becomes a board level matter. So tracking efforts, so time tracking, putting your rate cards, cost cards in, project accounting, that is the back office, back of the house for a services team. Now, we actually do both, but for smaller stage, like early stage companies, early stage SaaS, only the front office matters because, you're focused on just delivery, and very often time to value is the only thing that matters at that stage. Hey, did I somehow get the customer launched? Later stage companies, the profitability, the margins, the utilization on your team, all of that starts to matter. The biggest pattern we see is, I think, smaller companies, especially, and even some larger companies we work with, they don't have the intensity that is needed to, and rigor that is needed to successfully push and get projects delivered on time. The thing you need to realize is, it's not enough if you go with the customer's pace. You need to set the pace with the customer, saying, hey, here is, we need to get this done in 1.5 months, in 2 months, in 3 months, etc., depending on the complexity. But you need to have a perspective on how quickly you need to get them launched for their scope, and operate in a manner in which you look at it as the ball is always in your court, versus saying, hey, no, I reached out to the customer, it's waiting on the customer. Very often, especially when talking about early stage SaaS, you will find that a lot of their customers are disengaging during onboarding, and they have other priorities that come up, and you leave it till too late, and you've come to too close to a renewal, and you haven't yet gotten the customer live.
Correct.
The customer is going to blame you finally.
Yeah.
You can't. Your finger pointing doesn't help you to say, hey, no, we were always on the ball. You did not engage back with us on time. So I think that rigor is one big thing which I see missing as a pattern. And overall, just a maturity from what should an implementation or a onboarding journey look like, how to be more prescriptive. Sometimes we become order takers even in that journey, because very often onboarding teams come from, someone who is in support, etc., moves into that role. So we are waiting on, hey, customer, tell me what you want, let me do that, versus, hey, here is how our best customers do things. Let us do it this way for you. If you need something to be different for a reason, let's discuss. So those are two patterns I see as problematic today in early stage SaaS. I think later stage often evolves to overcome this, especially if you have a strong leader. But I feel that's another area, the having the right leadership, having the right operations, because sometimes you're running without an ops team, and so you're not evolving your process at all. You're not finding ways to make that process get adhered to in a consistent way.
Correct.
Instead, everyone's doing their own thing, and some customers have a great experience, some customers have a very bad experience. And G2, you would often find there is a lot of complaint around how you got onboarded by someone.
Yeah.
So overcoming that is gonna really help you succeed as a business, because that first 30, 60, 90 days is where a customer decides, hey, this is a partnership I really am enjoying. I'm going to invest more in this partnership. Or, hey, at the first opportunity, I'm going to disengage over here because, you know what, I don't think it's working out. So that is the true test, right? It's like I think someone gave the example of onboarding is like the honeymoon, but I think it's actually like the actual wedding process. It's very intense. There's a lot of things happening, a lot of moving parts. And if you see a lot of bottlenecks and challenges in that part, then it's going to get called off right there.
Yeah, correct. Though I think like dating and relationships, like as an analogy of like, when you do business, like there's a lot of parallels there, right? Definitely we can draw a lot of parallels in two things. But very, very interesting point, Sri. And, like I'm sure like you must be thinking a lot meta as well, where you are a customer onboarding company, right? And obviously like partly, and then you do like the other part as well. But in terms of like focusing on customer onboarding, right? So you're onboarding your own customers as well to an app which helps them onboard their customers, right? So there's a lot of meta here, right? So I'm sure in your own process you're learning through like how do you use your own product so to make sure that your onboarding is better for your customers, and then your team like constantly gives feedback to the product team, and that's how the product gets shaped, right? So but like you highlighted a couple of common mistakes that SaaS companies are making, right? Where they fail on onboarding. But like why do you think like these organizations fail to establish proper policies, right? Or any compliances in checks in the early customer journey, right? Like because it like we have been in the SaaS boom for the past like close to 2 decades now. And everybody knows like nobody wants to lose a customer. Like churn is like the biggest thing that every SaaS founder focuses on right from day zero, right? Like even before you onboard a customer, you start thinking like how do you not lose them, right? And one of the main challenges that you highlighted is like if they're not onboarded properly, like the correlation of them churning is very high. So why do you think even after all of this, right, still like a lot of companies fail to establish like proper policies and guardrails around onboarding?
think the answer is the way the post-sale org evolves is, very different from most other teams in a SaaS startup. You initially have one post-sale team. Typically, it's going to be called customer success, which is doing everything. At some point, it breaks into, okay, there is support, there is onboarding, there is customer success. And it is you usually don't have a leader for it already. It's running directly under the leadership of one of the founders.
Right.
And I think founders get stretched in so many areas that they aren't always able to do justice to how should this function evolve. They just trust that if I put my best person I'm sure there's something that goes through a lot of founders' minds. When you're closing that big deal, you're thinking, okay, who can I put on this project?
Right.
Okay, this person is my best. They're already in these three things. How do I pull them out and do one more with them? So you're not thinking repeatable process, etc. You're just thinking, Sudhir is awesome. Let me put Sudhir on this, right? And that's the challenge where things are very hero-driven instead of being system-driven. And by the time you realize that you bring in a leader from the outside, they don't have the same context as the internal team that's already there. The internal team that's already there starts feeling, hey, what value is this leader adding? They don't necessarily listen to them in terms of, I want things to happen this way, that way. They, each one does their own thing. And especially when things are happening in spreadsheets, it's very hard for someone to stay on top of all the sheets that exist. Every project will have 3 sheets or 3 tabs and, 15 tabs in a sheet, etc. And staying on top of all of that is very hard. When you push and say, hey, team, you better use project management tools. Team says, no, it's more clicks. I don't want to do it. Go back to spreadsheets. And so, things are sort of hidden away. The problems are hidden away till there is an escalation.
Correct.
And this change, it needs to be driven. A very experienced leader can come with, here is why we should be adopting this system, and make it clear that it's not for a leader's visibility alone, but rather it is for transforming the function, how you deliver, transforming the customer experience, and also how it benefits the person doing it. Because they see it as, hey, I'm already doing it in a sheet. It's easier for me in the sheet. What did I accomplish over here? And what it's preventing them from realizing is, even for a salesperson, it's easier to update a spreadsheet than to go and update the CRM. But when you do things in the CRM, the system is able to tell you stuff as well, right? Like you can get coaching on, hey, in MedPick, you've done these things, you haven't done these things. So focus and get these done. That's going to de-risk your deal. So the system can coach you. A leader can come in and examine things and coach you to do a better job, to be more successful at your job. And that's what I think people miss out on thinking about. They instead just feel, what is easy for me to do?
Right.
So that change needs to happen. For us at Rocketlane, I think obviously from day one, we were under pressure from when we launched to come across as, hey, we are the gold standard in how to do onboarding using our own tool as well, right? So we put in governance, we productized governance in our product. So we learned from others what happens, how do they do their governance. And we said, okay, you know what? We have this whole community that we run. We learned from there and we productize things. We said there needs to be an early warning system. There needs to be an escalation matrix. And these things are important because you don't wait till there is an escalation. The first moment where you see there is a problem, critical milestone is slipping, immediately escalate the partnership. Your leader reaches out to the customer side leader and says, hey, things are starting to go sideways. How do we course correct?
Right.
It's a much better conversation to have than after 2 months going and saying, hey, we have like 4 weeks of delay already and things are not going to launch on time. And here is why. Finger pointing at that time saying, hey, no, your team did this, our team did this. Avoid all of that, get ahead of the problem. So we built something for that and we use that, right? So I will reach out, my post-sale leaders will reach out immediately when we see something is slipping. First opportunities for the team member to say, no, here's what's happening and things are actually fine. Second opportunity is for us to say, no, let's escalate this. Let's get ahead of the problem. That's one. But also, I think just the way you present what you do, right? We have this beautiful branded customer portal. When you put that in front of the customer, already they're looking at you as, oh, these folks are very professional. They know what to do. So that seriousness comes in. Add to it, during a kickoff meeting, we will ask some questions. For example, we'll say, hey, if you don't turn up on time with what you're supposed to do, how should we handle it? And you ask that question to the exec sponsor, they're going to give you permission to chase them. We, in fact, now added a slide that says, what is your escalation path going to look like for this onboarding? And we're making it clear that we are going to come in with a certain intensity and chase you down. So it's not, we'll go at your pace. It is, we will go at our pace. And let's decide the pace now, but we'll hold you to that, what we discuss now.
Nice. And you brought an interesting point, right? Like customer, like your customers or SaaS startups in general who have poor onboarding, they need to bring in like a good, let's say, CS leader who can come in, put the foot down, and say we have to have these things in place, these policies, certain guardrails, some governance, and obviously we all cannot do it in a spreadsheet because of a lot of reasons, right? So and then that kind of brings in the intensity and the rigor that you're mentioning in terms of onboarding, right? So like how can companies like sustain this rigor, right? Like over time, as you mentioned, whenever like new projects come on board and you immediately think of like founders or the CS leader or the sales leader is thinking, hey, we need to make this customer very successful, and you give it to your best person, but your best person already has like 5 things on their plate, and they barely can take one more. So so obviously like bringing or having that scalability in mind is important, and sustaining the rigor and intensity is also important at the same time. So then how do you find like how have you find that balance for Rocketlane? And maybe like you can share some examples, some anecdotes that you feel maybe one of your customers or any story where they have found that balance as well, which you have learned.
I think the first time I met you, Sunil, was when I was in Pune to
Yeah,
meet
it's
Icertis. And I
correct.
think they're a great customer from a point of like where we learn a lot from.
Correct.
The early warnings, escalation metrics, etc. We
Yes.
actually learned from Icertis.
Yeah.
And we saw how, every day, so there's something that a leader there told me. He asked me, how does a project get delayed? And I started giving reasons of why project delays happen. He said, no, the answer I was looking for was one day at a time. That's how projects get delayed.
Yeah.
Every day matters. Make it clear, like you need to do some coaching enablement for your team to understand that what happens when these delays sort of cascade. What is the experience? What is a great experience which can lead to the partnership expanding, right?
Right.
Someone sees that you are always on top of things. They're going to say, I want to do more with this company. Like Icertis wants to do more with us now. They're like expanding our partnership because of this.
Right.
But at the same time, if you drop the ball on things, then they're going to start thinking, okay, you know what? I'll part ways over here at some point. Let me find someone else eventually. So the NRR, which we all care about, happens because of great onboarding is like a very important part of it. The biggest reason for churn also is, poor onboarding. During onboarding, people decide 95% of the churn at first opportunity happens because of poor onboarding. Now, given that, you need to tell your team this narrative around here is why it's important that we come across as impressive on top of things all the time. Here is how we're going to work. And then you need to codify things in a system. So great example is how much you can templatize. You can templatize not just here is my project plan, but you can templatize what needs to happen when certain issues happen. Think about it as migration is a tricky area for many companies. If I have a migration issue, how will communication happen at that moment? You can templatize. You can say, hey, migration issue, these are the people who will get involved. Here is how it will be communicated. You can have, decks that anchor different types of conversations. Like
Yes.
kickoff is a standard thing, but even with a kickoff deck, you can go find in companies, each person will be using their own format.
Correct.
But if you standardize saying, hey, here are the things we need to necessarily cover at kickoff, which will put us in that right, you know, mode of intensity with the customer, they will realize how important it is in how we work together. The partnership will be off to a great start. So standardize that. Standardize every type of email that goes out. Standardize when you have leaders checking in with the customer.
Hmm.
Because the moment you create enough path for feedback, we even have a CSAT where if, let's say a early session, let's say a kickoff or early training session was marked as 4-star instead of 5-star by the customer, there'll be an email that goes out from my, VP customer success automatically to the customer saying, hey, we just saw there was a 4-star. What would have made this 5-star for you? So we're learning and we're able to coach each individual on what they could have done better or what we need to do differently. And we also have this sort of brainstorming happening in the team always on what new tweak do we do to our process. And this needs to be collaborative in the team where everyone feels their ideas are also coming to the fore. If it's just leaders pushing their ideas, it's not going to take off. But here, for example, one recent thing that we all did was how do we introduce the concept of celebrating a go live at kickoff? So we said, let's add a slide in which we call out that, hey, at the end of this, if things go great, if these things happen, we would love for you to post on LinkedIn about going live with us. Here is what it can look like. We want to celebrate it in this manner. We will send you this swag. We will also, if things are going well, we will also get G2 reviews from you. Sort of set the context for all of that right up front. Right. So it becomes easy when there is a celebration that everyone is looking forward to at the end of that onboarding. So more likely that people are primed for that and they're happy about getting to that point.
Yeah. No,
So
definitely. Like I think, when sales people close a deal, they hit the gong, right? I think for CS, I think when they do a successful onboarding and it's a go live, or when you renew with the much like expand and cross sell upsell, I think that should also be like a gong moment, right? Like where you hit the gong and celebrate, right? But great initiative where you celebrate go lives as well, right? It makes the team happy, it makes the customers happy as well. But like what and you mentioned like there are some of the like check boxes, right? And once those are checked, and that's when you celebrate the go live, right? So can you walk us through like, or maybe share some examples of what these check boxes look like? And then do you also encourage your customers to use it for their customers?
absolutely. That's the whole point of Rocketlane, right? Like, we the idea is through our onboarding process, our customer should learn enough examples from us that they take in their process, they standardize it on Rocketlane itself, roll it out to their customers. So even like how we do a go live channel within our Slack, where automatically once you mark a project is done, certain things are automatically aggregated from there, posted in a very smart way.
Right.
But it's similar to the CRM having a customer wins channel.
Yeah.
Rocketlane will have a go live celebration channel that happens from a, what needs to happen to get to go live.
Right.
Firstly, I think upfront, the scope of what you're going to go live with needs to be discussed with the customer. And, for us, we also have some priorities where we know every customer is more successful with us when we have set up some governance, when we have set up some dashboards, when we have set up some key automations for them and templates, document templates, email templates, project templates, etc. So we ensure that all of these happen on the account, and that is when it's ready for go live. And the customer, if they had some specific, hey, this NetSuite integration is important to me, and I can't consider this as done till that is done, So those are also documented upfront. Can't change later, right? So if there will always be some cases where things change, but there is that give and take, and we can say, hey, let's go live and then make this happen. So we want to push for faster go lives because they start immediately seeing the value when they
Correct.
start using the product, right? They're gonna have access to even things like we have this AI bot that will join calls or integrate with Gong or Zoom, and the email follow-ups that need to go out after calls during an onboarding or the documents you need to create are all automatically getting created now using AI, right? So all these benefits happen when you go live. So you want to push to the go live to happen faster. So we have that checklist of sorts. Once that is done, and once the customer's key requirements are met, we go live. Then after that, we can continue hypercare. We can continue with like CS taking over and delivering on more and more modules, more capabilities that they need.
Nice, nice. And you also mentioned like, in the go live, right? There is talking about like, hey, share this go live on LinkedIn, probably give us like a G2 review or Gartner review or something like that. And there's also some incentive you mentioned for those people where you unlock some additional functionality once you go live, where you give them like some swag, some gifts, to celebrate. So that's also great. So based on like faster go lives, right? Like what sort of impact that you have seen, for Rocketlane, like for your customers basically, and then that impact for you, right? In terms of maybe some metrics, in terms of like revenue, in terms of CSATs, or customer like health and all of that. So maybe if you can share like some immediate impact and some maybe impacts that you didn't realize then, maybe when you started this process, but maybe you realized like a few quarters later, and then you tied it back to this new initiative that you started.
Yeah, not everything is stuff that we have measured, to be honest, but definitely we've seen that where you have a strong PS project execution and faster go lives, the expansion happens 2 times faster,
Hmm.
and the size of the expansion is also 2x bigger.
Hmm.
This is not coming from us; it is coming from some research in the industry. I think Zendesk and some others quoted how their PS attach influences the
Hmm.
expansions. So uh, that's something we've, you know, I think we also definitely see it
Hmm.
in terms of how when we go live faster, there's definitely faster expansion within those accounts. The partnership just increases.
Hmm.
The softer aspect is, these customers become advocates faster.
Hmm.
And for your next customer to believe and trust you, you're able to introduce these folks who then tell that customer, hey, you know what? Because the biggest problem today in buying software is the fear that this will turn into shelfware, it won't suit me, it won't go live.
Yeah. Hmm.
Now, if I overcome that by connecting a prospect with a happy customer who went live quickly, and
Hmm.
we have a case study recently, we moved a customer uh, from, I think, Certinia, Smartsheet type of combination into one tool, Rocketlane.
Hmm.
They did a case study with us. When we send that case study to others
Hmm.
about how quickly that happened, because people don't expect it to happen that quickly. It's not believable.
Right.
Now it becomes credible when a public company is saying, hey,
Hmm.
this happened in 1.5 months, 2 months, right?
Right.
So that helps you win more business
Hmm.
because now you have that credibility that, hey, this actually gets done in such short time.
Hmm.
And the more you successfully run projects faster, on track, etc., that image of excellence around your team emerges in the market. People will have conversations with their peers.
Hmm.
And if it comes out that, hey, the Rocketlane team is great to work with,
Hmm.
more people will work with us, right? So I think it's not just about having the best product in the market. It is a lot about having a team and a way of working which customers enjoy that partnership with you from.
Hmm. Interesting. And any ripple effects that you see, um, which poses like a direct revenue impact, because of poor onboarding, right? And those might be like, as you mentioned, on the renewals, on upgrades, on
Yeah,
churn
I know
itself.
there's enough companies which will tell you 50-60%
Hmm.
of their closed deals never go live and never renew.
Hmm.
Uh, so, you know, this is a major problem in many kinds of spaces. I think, you know, uh, customer engagement, etc. Any complex platform that needs like a big setup, a lot of data.
Hmm.
Uh, in fact, I would say the best category to give us an example is actually customer success,
Hmm.
where I think it's notoriously hard to get the right data and things set up for like a health score and automations and so on. So
Right.
most of them fail at it, and um, it is onboarding failure, really, right? And
Hmm.
we've seen, um, I think the 50-60% is the extreme, but 25-30% is common. If you
Hmm.
don't have great onboarding, you will lose customers. More so in the SMB.
Hmm.
I think enterprise, mid market also you will lose. Enterprise often commits to something. They have their program team. So even if you don't have the rigor, they will have the rigor and things will
Right.
happen.
Hmm.
The key for enterprises, they will ask you these questions about your process, your methodology, how you implement, etc. before they buy.
Hmm.
If they see that it doesn't feel like you're mature, they're not
Hmm.
going to buy from you. So
Correct.
to show your maturity, if you're able to talk about your best practices, talk about your governance methodology, talk about here is the portal we will use to onboard you, that
Hmm.
gives that credibility where they feel, okay, this company is sorted. They know what they're doing. They have a way of working. They
Hmm.
seem to be using technology for all this. They
Right.
want to see that. And that will give them confidence that you know what you're doing.
Yeah, I think they definitely, like, having a portal, not only a portal, but like as you mentioned, like good process set, good governance. No, like, it just portrays that, they know their shit, right? They know what they want to do. They know how to do it. They've done it, um, like, multiple times before for different cars. So you're not like, the guinea pig here, where, we're going to be tested, right? So one last, point before we move on to the lightning round, right? So, like, how can then leadership teams, right, see, with all these, it's been so impactful. We know, like, it's important, it's impactful on the revenue, and it has a direct impact, right? Not even an indirect one. So how can then leadership teams understand and incorporate these goals, right, right into the onboarding journey itself, right? Like, where are, maybe you're incorporating checkpoints, maybe you have a KPI attached to it, maybe you have an OKR for the people who are onboarding, for your onboarding teams, or as you mentioned, like, having a separate onboarding team is generally good as well. So, like, how can leadership teams who currently have poor revenue, or sorry, poor onboarding, right, and because of that they're losing some revenue, and they don't know, like, what to do, right? So if you want to sum it up, like, how can they incorporate these things and into their onboarding journey itself?
What I would really do is take a step back and design a customer journey from
Yeah.
scratch. And in that customer journey, you want to include what are the key big things that need to happen to unlock customer value. But you also want to incorporate, hey, here are moments where we want to get feedback. Here are
Hmm.
moments where we want to deliver some kind of joy to the customer, right? It may be, uh, for example, one thing we do is we do something called a reverse demo with the customer, where we ask them to demo how they will use Rocketlane, how they've started using
No.
Rocketlane.
Right.
And it's like a good, happy experience to, see them present back to us. It puts certain energy into motion from their end.
Hmm.
And it also uncovers how well we did our training. When we see,
Yeah.
if we see them struggling, then we did a bad job, right? But
Yeah.
you incorporate these elements which make your process feel okay, they have a way of working. So you need to take time to design that process. Then you roll it out with a tool like Rocketlane potentially so that everyone adheres to the journey. But invest in resources from a design perspective as well. On every deck that you're going to present needs to come across as very polished. We actually, for our onboarding team, we have custom backdrops on Zoom that each of them use, which introduces them in a fun way. So it humanizes the engagement. All of these small things add up in the perception about the partnership. And have moments in that journey where it's not just the system reaching out for feedback, but also leadership reaching out for feedback automated. Because that will again create that sense of, hey, you know what, this company cares, they're engaged. If there's a problem, you will get to know about it. So, or the CEO wrote to me, let me respond. That happens. And you will catch problems faster. You will be able to resolve them before it becomes like there is, it's too late to fix the partnership.
Nice. All right, like amazing insights, Steve. I think lot to unpack here on this particular topic, and I'm sure there's a lot of content already available, on your website as well. So people who are listening, maybe if you want to deep dive into solving customer onboarding challenges, may do check out Rocketlane's blog, and I'm sure they have good content there. So let's move on to the lightning round. I've asked you a lot of questions, I know, but three more questions, and you have to answer with whatever is on top of your mind quickly, right? So, what's the one thing, Sri, that you wish you would have known when you first started?
Hmm. Uh, the way AI is going to transform things around us, if I had known back then, I think maybe, when you start building a product with the assumption that AI exists, it could have been a different type of product. So that's one thing I would say.
Nice, interesting. And the second question is about AI itself. So, given like a lot of AI tools are now flooded in the market, right? I'm sure everybody is using at least one. But what's your recommendation for a AI tool? Like any AI tool that you absolutely love using and you would recommend to the audience?
So I think I use the regular, ChatGPT and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Uh, But I use Aboma for our sales team,
Nice.
which it has like a Ask Aboma where you can go and ask
Yeah.
insights about an account, etc. It's going to give you inputs. And latest thing I'm using is Rocketlane's own AI. So
Nice.
we are launching a whole new, first add-on, but a whole new product, which is
Yeah.
AI first in its approach. So we are trying it out internally now. We've given like a beta to 20 customers and
Nice.
definitely enjoying using that as well.
Awesome. That must be so cool. And on to the third and last one, right? So, what's your one book recommendation for the audience?
I think if it's mostly entrepreneurs, operators, I feel I would I have two book recommendations. Uh, one is this book called Made to Stick.
Hmm.
It's about how to communicate your ideas in a very impactful way, how to package your ideas best. And I feel this is something that is useful internally and externally. You want a customer, a prospect, someone to remember what you told them about yourself, about your company, about your product, etc. So your message should stick with them. Uh, Even for sales, right? Not just marketing, but even sales. If you deliver, hey, here is why we are very different, and it sticks with the customer, then you've done your job. So that's a good book. The other one I would recommend is uh, it's called um, Competing with Luck. Wait, let me Google it for you. Competing against luck. So essentially, this is about what job your product is doing. How do you make it, there's this jobs to be done framework from a
Right.
product management perspective that comes from this book in a way. So I think it's a good one for any product founders or product thinkers to read.
Awesome. Awesome. That thanks again. Thanks, Sri. This is like has been phenomenal in terms of the depth that you've gone into sharing the insights and good anecdotes and good examples as well onto like how does one think of customer onboarding and like what's like definitely it has revenue impact, but just having clarity on what sort of impact it has and how does one solve it, think about it, and having like importance of having frameworks, governance, templates in place, very very important. And how do you align with customers, right? At the end of the day. Got it.
I don't know how phone
Yeah.
ringing got into that.
Right. But yeah, again, thanks a lot and for taking time and sharing all these insights.
Super. Thank you.
Awesome.